Hey, welcome to today's broadcast from the Section 2 Sports Studios. Home game once again for me this week. By way of introduction, my name is Sean Martin. I've been a freelance sports writer with the Albany Times-Union since 2007, regularly cover a wide variety of high school sports in addition to D1 college hockey with RPI and Union. I've also written a couple books, Dearly and Manoa, Letters from Daddy, and The Three Bulls, both available on Amazon. Our goal here on the Section 2 Sports podcast is to feature the teams, the coaches, the student athletes from around the 518 that deliver the best stories week in and week out and give more of a spotlight to those stories, more that can be done in the 600-word newspaper articles that I'm lucky enough to have access to doing. This is episode 5 as we welcome in our guests, Shenendehowa cross-country track and field coach Rob Cloutier and rising senior Katie Battle talk about the offseason a little bit. I'm sure we could take a few seconds and reminisce on the 2025 season for Shen, the girls' first Class A state championship cross-country since a long time, right? 30 years or so?
First 30 years, 1995.
1995, and first time ever Federation champs. Coach, you've been at Shen since 2009. You're an alum, Shen graduate. You ran at the University of Tennessee. Go back to last year for a few minutes. You know, Layla Busry was a state champion. She's heading off to Notre Dame. What was that season like for you from this point, the summer preparation, and all the way through your championship seasons?
Sure, it was unique. First time we've ever been the favorites, or considered a co-favorite. So that was a unique set of circumstances to prepare your athletes for and how to handle that from maybe a mental, emotional side. And we knew we had a great crew of returning kids coming back. So the summer's always been more of a relaxed approach. We don't have kids race or compete in the summer. We have a club called Outliers, and we get about 100 kids that get together 5 days a week, and they trust me with guiding them through the training in order to be prepared for the fall. And so the emphasis is always just on having a lot of fun and knowing that you got a place to meet up with the rest of your peers and get the training in. And I think they did a great job with that, really. Sometimes we just had to rein the horses in a little bit and keep them patient, but they did a fabulous job.
Well, did it mean a little something extra doing it at your alma mater? Again, you coach all 3 seasons. Is that a little something special having gone to Shen?
Oh, absolutely. There's a special place in my heart because I found running. I found something that changed my life on the career path, and came to Shen in my 9th grade year and didn't run really until my junior year. Didn't even know what that was, and got cut from basketball a couple times. And my high school coach, Matt Jones, who's been at the University of Albany since I've started coaching, took me in and helped me get to the next level and get to the collegiate level, and all those experiences together coming back to Shen and being at Shen ever since day one of coaching has been extremely special. And then, last year with everything that happens, it's kind of icing on the cake. It's always been about a process and what the realm of sports can teach kids. And that's the beautiful thing behind high school sports. So being a part of that was pretty cool for me.
And one of the things I enjoy about any sporting event, right? You go to sectional cross country meet. I talked to other reporters there. You could get more than 10 great stories, and all the eight sectional races. There's always a great story. And last year you had clinched the championship. The word was out. And one of the first things you told me was that you had a former soccer player competing on cross country for the first time. And that is Katie for the first year. And Katie, you ran 5th that day for the team. And I remember Addie Morelli gutted it out through a fever, right? But Katie, you stepped up, and that to me was one of the greater stories. A former soccer goalkeeper, you ran cross country the first time. When did you make that decision to switch sports?
I think it was like mid-April, and I was having like a talk with my parents, and I was like, I really just like fell out of love with the sport of soccer. And so I was like, I might as well do cross country to like my running. So I did track and indoor track before that in 5th grade. So I was like, I might as well. And then I had a blast. It was such like a surreal season. It was just like week after week, we were like winning these big things, and I guess it was great to be a part of that.
Yeah. Was it did you have a running background, or was it something you just picked up? Was it something you did to stay in shape for other sports?
Yeah, I actually joined track with the intention of staying fit for soccer, and I guess I've always just been like really athletic, and I don't know. I used to run like a lot with my sister. My sister was on the track team for my eighth and then freshman year. So like she really helped me like get into the sport, and she was really a big role model for me.
Yeah. Talk about the difference between soccer. I Googled, it said goalkeepers on average run about 2.5 to 3 miles a game, which blows my mind. But how different is it? Because it's a lot of stopping and starting in soccer, but once you hit the cross country circuit, off you go.
I think not so much physically, but mentally it's different. Like running, like you just like it's so continuous. You just have to like sustain that mental. But with soccer, with like the off and on, you're allowed to like recover and then like think about how you're gonna do this like next play or next game. And so it was definitely like a big step up from that, and it really like improved my confidence in myself and my team.
Yeah. And coach, now you got to turn the page, right? You had your dream season. But Layla says already off to Notre Dame. Courtney Krowicki's gone. Addie Morelli and Raquel Landon from your top 7 are gone. Katie's back. Riley Lynch and Alexandra Beer. How do you is it a challenge to turn the mindset to this year? Kind of wipe the slate clean and start over?
No, really. One of the highlights I love about coaching, especially at the high school level, is kids change so fast. And even if you had the same 7 coming back, every year is different. You think
Sure.
about a day in our lives at our ages, which we don't want to really put out there in public, is not a big deal. But a day for a high schooler is a big deal, right? So with the kids we have returning and kids that have become a part of it since the day cross country ended, we've got some new kids that are a part of our summer club and had some success in track. It's a lot of fun to see what a new team every season, even with the same kids, is going to develop into. So I relish in watching a kid maybe start in 7th, 8th, or 9th grade and being able to be a part of that through hopefully graduation. Section 2 is special, and certainly the Suburban Council. So it's going to be a fun adventure. We're probably not the favorites anymore, and not that that's a conversation I ever really have with kids. We're really focused on things we have a control over, which is just us and our own process. But I don't think that the target will really be there, and that poses a different approach, right? A little bit more of a, hey, where can we take this? Maybe it's an underdog thing. Maybe we are the favorite, whatever those things might be. It's just fun to see how kids change, and a lot can change over one summer.
Yeah.
Names on paper and what you do over the course of those months in between the school year can really fluctuate, and we'll see.
How challenging is it? Yeah, Section 2, I mean, especially for cross country and Suburban Council. I can't imagine there's a better conference in the country once you add Burnt Hills to the mix, boys and girls. Does it really kind of keep you on your toes, knowing the Saratogas and Bethlehem's on a good run right now? Niskayuna is always tough. Gilder on track and field. Is that how challenging is that as a coach, knowing the competition's right in your backyard?
Well, I think it's a great compliment to obviously the long story tradition that's in this area, both boys and girls side, in cross country and distance running, especially. Certainly throughout the rest of the country, it's comparable to any other league, and maybe, arguably the best league. So I think it's an advantage to us, right? I think preseason, probably on paper, 4 teams in the Suburban Council on the girls side will be in the top 5 in New York State, Class A, right? So, you already kind of know who those teams are that you're going to have to match up and beat, and you're going to see them several times during the season. That's an advantage, right? A team that's isolated in a different part of the state, you can look at results. Maybe you go to an invitational, you race some of those top schools, but we're well familiar. Katie and our returners have already raced a lot of those kids throughout the year, so you get to see tendencies and maybe some strategy. I think you can use that as an advantage, right?
Hey, Katie, how is this year different, or is this year different for you, preparing for your senior year, now having 1 year cross country on your resume?
I don't see it as too different. I think I'm just like more prepared for this year, and I'm excited to really like step up and take that like senior leadership role, because I had like admired the prior seniors for so many years, like since 8th grade. Like I had always looked up to them, and so I think I'm just excited to like sort of lead this team and like get to know everybody, and yeah, just like on a team aspect, I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, is that do you work out with teammates throughout the year and over the summer? I know you're in camp now, but is it something you've been doing?
Yeah, we run together mostly every day. We do workouts together, and I think that really pushes each other to like be better, and it helps having someone like always there, ready to push you and to be your best.
Does it help? How important is it from your perspective? You've played other sports, being part of a team, being close, having bonding time with your teammates. Does that translate summertime together, translate in season?
Yeah, I totally think it does. Because with like soccer, we didn't really have much bonding over the summer. Like we did like a camp for a week. And so I think it took us more time to really gel together on the field and off the field. But with running, we're able to have this summer to like get to know each other even further and like know what works and how to support each other, which I think translates a lot to the actual season, as we already have that such tight bond.
Yeah. And Coach, for you, what age group are you looking at for some of your camps? You say over 100 in the outliers now. Are you looking at the modified group, 7th or 8th, or trying to dig a little younger? The reason I ask is Zaquan Irby, the sprints coach at Shaker, was on last week. He's run a track and field camp in previous summers for younger kids, third grade and up, to try and introduce them to the sport. What are your thoughts on that and getting kids interested in cross country, track and field at an earlier age?
Well, contrary to popular belief, cross country is actually and track and field are fun. Now, there's a lot of options in youth sports. We Outlier starts with 3rd grade. We have a 3rd through 6th grade group. We actually have the biggest numbers we've had. We got about 23 kids that are involved, and they come twice a week, and it's their first exposure to, kind of the makings of what it's like to be distance runners and cross country, and they get to see what the older kids are doing, and then the 7th through 12th grade makes up the rest of the program. And then in addition to Outliers, we have a youth track club that we run at Shen, Clifton Park Track Club. And we get about 100 kids, and that's 1st through 6th grade. And then if they're middle school aged or high school, we have a Legion track club with former Shen track coach who just retired this spring, Jason Burlingame. So you get exposure to those things. I think it's important to get kids in early because there's a lot to offer. I came to it late in my own career, but just the basics, introductory, making sure they have fun with something. And, you never know, a kid comes into their own and finds what they're good at. And sometimes they kind of come to it backwards or through a different avenue, which, Katie's covered here by being a former soccer player.
Katie, Coach just mentioned it being fun. I got to ask you about the steeplechase, because that's not fun for a lot of people. That is an event I always marvel at. Those barriers don't give like the hurdles do on the sprints and the 400. And when did you decide to give steeplechase a try? And tell me about that event.
I actually started last year in 10th grade, and Coach had actually like approached me and said like, would you want to try this? Because like at the time we didn't really have a lot of steeplers, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try anything. And I actually really like it. I just think it's so different than all the other races, and it allows me to like explore more. And I don't know. It's just like I didn't expect to like it as much as I did,
Yeah.
and it's kind of grown on me. Yeah.
Is that something you ever find yourself in mid race, especially in the spring, once you get into the hotter parts of spring, where you're really having to test your resolve on there as you're climbing those barriers, getting over?
Yeah, yeah, especially at sectionals this year. It was like steeples the first event at like 4, and it was like the hottest of the day, and I found myself actually like really struggling, but like my team like was really supporting me, and I'm really good at like the last couple of laps. I'm able to like I find that in many races I like am able to like improve and get faster moderately in like the last couple of laps. So I like really tried to focus on that. And it was actually like it was a shock because me and my other teammate Mora, like we were only like predicted on paper to score like 1 point, but we actually ended up scoring like 4 or 5, and that just made me like so happy. And it just shows like we have like our saying like legacy and for each other, and it really like emphasized that that's like our main goal. Like the points don't really matter, it's just running for each other and making sure we support everybody.
Coach, was there something in Katie, or do you just see things in some of your athletes that say, hey, they might be a good fit over here? Let's have that conversation and see how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. You're always trying to find opportunity for kids, and so maybe one of the strengths the last 2 years on our team has been the depths in the 1500, right? So if you want to run the 1500 at the sectional meet, you needed to be a low 430 kid. Well, that's a tough break for kids that might run 440 or even 450, and we've got really good depth in the 800 as well. And so I think steeplechase is this thing out here on the periphery of our sport that I think it definitely requires a certain mentality. There's a certain grit to it. There's a certain like maybe you were a former skateboarder or you did something crazy in your previous life, and it works really well. Actually, my roommate in college was a 2-time Olympian in the event, and he was an absolute nutcase. So not saying that Katie Battle is a nutcase. She's actually an outstanding young lady. But I think there was this point where I saw a certain amount of grit in her and thought, let's try this, right? I think you need to be strong. It takes a certain amount of just overall general body strength, a coordination that you often get with kids that come from other sports that can translate well to this thing that involves, a little bit more than running flat on the oval.
Katie, you brought up the word legacy. So I see it on the uniforms. I see it. What does it mean to you being an athlete heading into your senior year on the program that's been built that you're part of?
I think it's like the pillar and foundation of like what we actually do and what we actually run for. You know, we're all about like the team aspect. And I don't really think any other team like in the section or even in like the country like can like has that like same like mentality of just like focusing on the process, focusing on each other's, focusing on supporting each other, not even focusing on like our time or our points. It's just being there in the moment, having fun, making connections. And I just think that's what we really show up for is each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to. What have you learned from Coach in your time with him? Because I see him at these track meets. I don't know how many miles you run at some of these track meets outdoor, but you're constantly back and forth across the infield and everything. Coach, or Katie, what's it been like running for Coach, and what have you learned from him?
I think it's such a privilege, and I think Coach Rob, he like I've never seen a coach like care this much about each and every person, and it's just really great to have him. He's such like a supporting coach, and he's always there for you no matter like how stressful the meet has been. And I guess just like he's taught us that like you're not just like in terms of like events, we support the entire team, not just like the distance or the sprints or the jumps. We support everybody. And I think that just shows with us constantly cheering on everybody. And it's just been such a fun time. And I think he's taught like a lot of good advice.
Yeah, Coach, how important is it that that the kids buy into the legacy foundation, or that you've instilled in this program for your 16, 17 years?
It's special. I think at this point, when I reflect back, I'm going to be going into my 20th year of coaching, if you include track. And it was just this word I somehow came across when I first started coaching girls back then, and wanted something that they could identify with. And, from a cultural standpoint, now it's like you got to pinch yourself, right? Because we just finished up a campaign where the girls had, won everything in the fall, and it exemplifies itself in relays, with track. That's as close as you get to the kind of team nature of cross country. And these guys, they get it, right? And I thought, am I seeing this the right way? Do I really have a good handle on, like, could this really be true? It was like a fairy tale, really. They're the nicest kids. They embody like what you would want something to be built on. And so with the word legacy and your question, I think it's on them, right? And, maybe as they're younger and their first experiences, you have some influence on that as a coach. But I really think it's just this trickle-down effect from just having kids that bought into it early, and then they hand it down. They show it by how they act every single day in practice. And it's really, really special to have an assistant coach in Stephanie Bergman, who was Stephanie Fresenius in her high school years, that I got to coach when I first started. And she talked about it at our banquet just a few weeks ago, that we ran on a practice over to the Y, and there was some sand, and I drew a line in the sand, and I just asked the girls, I said, you want to be a part of something special, step across the line. And she talked about it at the banquet. I'd actually forgotten that. So, Katie has an experience as an athlete in high school, to have a coach that was a part of that from the very beginning. And so for me, I kind of look at it from the outside in now, even though I'm the coach. I just watch this thing grow, and the admiration I have for the kids, that it is special. If you want to be a part of it, you just have to show up and be willing to listen and get outside your comfort zone, because running is not easy. And so you're growing every single day that you choose to show up. And so in the summer, it's an investment on their part to get out of bed, unlike a lot of teenagers that are sleeping in, and be somewhere at 8 a.m. and meet kids. And, I think that's a little bit of what legacy is in the off season too,
Yeah. Can you give a shout out to one? I also want to give a shout out to Keith Jordan, fellow Raider fan, was by your side for years. Got to get the Raiders into as many episodes as I can. Talk about Keith and just some of the student athletes that laid the foundation for you. Some of the leaders, not necessarily the best performers, because you've had a ton of them. Who were some of the kids that helped build this program that you've taken? It was good when you got it, and you've moved it up to a very good level.
Well, that's cool. Sorry.
Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. I'd have to say, like, two that come to mind, like, immediately are Dia Sweet, who graduated 2 years ago, and then Addie Morelli, who just graduated this year. I feel like I was always training with them, always running with them, and they kind of, like, I feel like when I was younger, they kind of, like, took me under their wing and, like, really, like, brought me into their group as, like, I was, like, continuing to get faster in 8th grade. And, like, they have always just been such, like, role models to me, and they've really, like, helped me prepare for, like, how I want to, like, kind of lead this team as a senior this year. And yeah, I just have a lot of love for them.
Awesome. Coach, how about you?
Yeah, I look back and I can check on my Facebook feed now. Most of them are married, they're having kids. It's pretty cool. I've been trying to reach out to a lot of those generations now, as I'm reflecting back and ask them a series of questions. I'm trying to compile it and then get it out there. Just, fun stuff for them to reflect on. Probably a lot of stuff that I've forgotten, but somebody like Coach Steph was never the superstar in her team, but she just understood it and she got it. Jordan Westcott, Kathleen Klein. I mean, there's so many generations of it. Danica Simonson. It's hard to remember all the names. I can see a lot of the faces, and just this crew that's graduating now. I mean, I think Katie nailed it. Dia was such a huge part of that. Addie Morelli is such a huge part of that. We've got some now that are going to fit that role as well. So I'm excited to see what Katie does, and fully confident in who she is and what she's shown herself to be, and excited about what her senior year looks like.
Hey, Katie, senior year, but are any thoughts on trying to continue running after post Shen?
Yeah, I have thought a lot about it recently, and right now I'm not looking at like running in college, but I was actually like just talking to my mom, and we were like, I was saying like it's like running is like a lifelong sport, and like not that I just don't want to do it maybe like competitively, but obviously I still want to like continue training and just do it more for myself, maybe down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've covered cross country since 2007, and I mentioned this on the second episode when I had Parker Steele and Addison Velkoop from Gilderland on. I remember the Times Union called me and said, "Hey, do you want to become the cross country guy?" And my first answer was, "Do I have to run? I'm not a runner. I played football, I played some hockey. I'm not a runner." So I've always appreciated the kids who make the commitment to run, especially the long distances, because you really have to enjoy what you do. And Coach, I've known you for a long time, and love your enthusiasm, what you bring in. And Katie said it. You have a passion for the kids. I think more so than the results for the kids themselves. I think I'm pretty comfortable saying that. And I appreciate all that you guys do, and everybody that's in these running sports, particularly cross country. It's a joy to watch week in and week out at the invitationals. All right, now with that, I'm going to let you go back to your training. All right, it was a little rainy day for you today. Hopefully, we got some better weather coming for the rest of your camp, and you don't have to put on the water resistant clothes the rest of the week.
Yeah, we'll be all right. They show up no matter what. So, that's what we like. We're out there if it's snowing, if it's 95, it doesn't matter, And we always have freeze pops on Fridays. So if you ever stop by, just know that.
Freeze Pop Friday. I'll keep that in mind. Katie, what are your thoughts for the rest of the summer? You want to enjoy the summer, but get ready for cross country?
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm preparing, I guess, for like college applications and stuff. And I'm just trying to like make the most of it.
That's great. Both of you, thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate your time. Have a great summer, and I'm sure I'll see you at a September invitational somewhere.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us on. Good luck.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.